Welcome to Taste of Revenge. If you're into cold revenge and dark justice, hit that subscribe and like button. This story will haunt you.
I woke up to silence. Not peace. Silence. You know the kind. The kind that feels wrong. Too still, too heavy. Like the air's holding its breath. Because it knows something you don't. My eyes flicked open, vision still fuzzy. Stark white ceiling. Buzzing fluorescent light, the scent of antiseptic and plastic. Hospital. I tried to sit up, pain lanced through my ribs like a warning shot. My arms wouldn't cooperate, tubes ran from my veins, one arm wrapped in gauze, the other restrained lightly with medical straps. Then the voices came. Muffled at first, then louder, closer. Is he awake? Just don't talk to him yet. He needs to explain what the hell he was doing there. It's always the quiet ones, huh? That last line cut deeper than any wound I'd woken up with. I turned my head slowly. Behind the glass wall of my room, 3 people stood. My sister, Emily. My boss, Gerald Stokes. And Detective Lila Barnes. I'd come to know her name too well. Not one of them looked happy to see me. I wanted to believe they were wrong. That maybe they had the wrong person. That maybe whatever happened, whatever I'd survived, was some kind of misunderstanding, a mix-up. But then Emily turned her head, just slightly, and her eyes met mine. She looked at me like I was a stranger. No, worse. Like I was something she had to protect the world from. That's when the panic kicked in. Not a loud, thrashing kind, not movie panic. The quiet kind. The kind that rises in your chest like a cold hand, gripping your throat from the inside. What happened? Why am I here? Why is everyone acting like I'm guilty? 3 days passed, maybe 4, it was hard to tell. The doctors wouldn't say much, just that I'd been found unconscious. A blow to the head, a cracked rib, bruising, some minor internal bleeding. No visitors. No phone. Just silence, questions, and more silence. Eventually, Detective Barnes returned. She didn't even knock. Just opened the door, and stepped in with a clipboard and a face made of stone. "Mr. Cole," she said, "we have a few things to discuss." I nodded. Tried to sit up. Failed. She stayed standing. "You were found inside the West Point corporate building 3 nights ago, after hours. Alarm disabled, server room accessed, several files missing, security guard injured." She paused. "And you were holding the wrench." My stomach dropped. I didn't remember anything. Nothing passed, leaving work that evening. I knew the West Point building. It was the headquarters of our parent company. But I had no reason to be there. Not after hours. Not ever. And definitely not with a wrench. I opened my mouth. But no words came out. She stared. "Your access card was used. Your fingerprints were on the panel. You had no alibi, and you were alone with the guard when the assault happened." "Is he?" I asked, my throat dry. "He'll recover," she said. "You're lucky. If he hadn't, you'd be waking up to a murder charge." I wanted to laugh. To cry. To scream. But all I could do was blink at her. "You're not under arrest," she said, "yet, but the evidence is not in your favor." Emily came next. She didn't step inside. Just stood in the doorway like she was scared to get close. "Why, Nathan?" she whispered. "I don't know," I said. "I swear to you, I don't know what happened." "You think that makes it better?" Her voice cracked. "You almost killed someone." "I didn't." "You think I care what the police say? You think Gerald lied when he said you tried to leak client data?" "What?" "You broke into the office. You tried to frame the company, and you got caught." "Emily, no, that's not. I didn't." But she was already walking away. That's when I realized. Everyone had already decided. I was the villain of this story. And if I wanted the truth to come out, I'd have to write a whole new ending. One they wouldn't see coming. They didn't release me right away. Maybe it was protocol. Or maybe they just weren't sure if I was still a threat. Every morning, when the door clicked, my heart stopped. I kept expecting someone to walk in with handcuffs and say the words, "You're under arrest." But no one did. I was alone in that room, surrounded by machines I didn't understand and memories I couldn't reach. So I did what I could. I tried to remember. Flashes, that's all I had. The sound of an elevator dinging. A glimpse of someone's shoes on a cold marble floor. A scream, not mine. Then, darkness. Every time I closed my eyes, it played again. The same disjointed, broken reel. But no matter how hard I focused, the rest wouldn't come. The worst part? No one believed I was even trying. When I was finally discharged, no one came to pick me up. No calls. No texts. Not even from Emily. They kept my wallet, my ID, my phone. All part of the investigation, they said. I left the hospital wearing paper-thin clothes and a paper bag, and a bus voucher handed to me like I was a stray. I had nowhere else to go. So I went to the last place I ever thought I'd return. My mother's house. She opened the door like she'd been expecting me. Didn't smile. Didn't hug me. Just looked me in the eye and sighed. I figured you'd show up. Then she turned around and walked back inside. That was her way of saying I could come in. I didn't argue. Didn't ask for comfort. Just stepped over the threshold like a ghost, returning to the place it died. That night, I stayed in my old room. It still had posters on the wall. A twin bed with the same lumpy mattress. But none of it felt like mine anymore. I stared at the ceiling for hours. Then, I turned to my email. Most messages were unread. Some were from coworkers. A few were from lawyers I didn't know. But one caught my attention. It was from Gerald, the head of HR at my company. Subject line, meeting request, urgent. It was sent 2 days before everything went wrong. I opened it. Nathan, we'd like to meet with you first thing Monday morning. Please confirm. But I never confirmed. Because I never got the chance. The next morning, I tried calling the building where it all happened. The receptionist transferred me to security. Security gave me a number to call for legal inquiries. Legal said the footage had been submitted to the authorities and could not be shared. I asked if I could see just the timestamp. They refused, which meant I had nothing. No proof, no context. Just a foggy memory and a crowd of people who already decided I was guilty. Then, I remembered something. Outside the building, across the street, there was a traffic light. And above that light, a camera. It wasn't pointing inside. But maybe, just maybe, it had caught something. Someone leaving. Someone entering. Something. But to access that footage, I'd need an attorney. And attorneys cost money. Money I didn't have. But I knew someone. Cassie. We went to high school together. She'd always said she wanted to go into law. Last I checked, she'd passed the bar. I found her number in an old group chat. Sent a text first. Then called. She picked up on the third ring. Wow, Nathan? She sounded cautious. Then curious. What happened to you? It's a long story, I said. You okay? I don't know, but I need your help. There was a pause. What kind of help? I need access to traffic footage. They won't give it to me without legal representation. Another pause. Then, text me your address. I'm on my way. Cassie showed up an hour later, with coffee in one hand and a stack of legal pads in the other. She looked at me like she was trying to decide if I was still the same person she remembered. Whatever this is, she said, you don't look like the guy who used to cheat off my math tests. I managed a weak smile. I'm not. She sighed, good. Then she sat down and started writing. We drafted a formal request, filed the paperwork, and waited. Because sometimes justice doesn't come from fighting harder. It comes from knowing where to look. The city's traffic department was slower than we expected. We waited a week. Then 2. Cassie followed up 3 times. Each time, they said the same thing. It's in processing. But I knew what that really meant. They didn't care. To them, I was just another suspect trying to claw his way out of a mess he probably created. But Cassie didn't give up. She drafted a motion. She used language I didn't even understand. And finally, on day 17, they caved. We got the footage. The video came on a cheap USB stick in a manila envelope. Cassie and I sat at her office desk and plugged it into her laptop. The angle wasn't great. It showed the sidewalk in front of the building, cars passing, people walking. Nothing unusual. Until 8:47 a.m. That's when I saw her. Emily, running from the building. Not walking. Not injured. Running. Her face wasn't afraid. It wasn't shocked. It was calculated. She checked over her shoulder once, then kept moving. A minute later, the alarms went off. People started pouring out. Cassie rewound and played it again. Then again. Then in slow motion. There, she pointed. That movement. She's hiding something. It was subtle. A shift in her coat, like she was adjusting something under it. Could be a phone, I said. Cassie leaned back. Or a device. My stomach dropped. Cassie submitted the footage with a supplemental affidavit. We didn't accuse Emily outright. We just raised questions. And that was enough to reopen the investigation. It took another 3 weeks, but eventually, the police knocked on someone else's door. Emily's. I didn't feel happy. I thought I would. I thought I'd feel vindicated. But watching the news clip, seeing her escorted out in handcuffs, I just felt hollow. Because the truth wasn't simple. Emily wasn't a stranger. She was someone I'd trusted, shared everything with. She knew my routine, my habits, my fears, and she'd used them all. For what? Attention? Money? Revenge? I didn't know. I still don't. The trial didn't happen right away. The prosecution needed time. Evidence had to be processed. Witnesses found. Lawyers postured. In the meantime, I was left to rebuild my life from the rubble. Which wasn't easy. My job was gone. My reputation trashed. People who once called me a friend avoided eye contact in grocery stores. But Cassie helped. She encouraged me to speak out, not in anger, but in truth. I started a blog. At first, just a few readers. Then dozens. Then thousands. People reached out, strangers, saying they'd been through something similar. Falsely accused. Manipulated. Destroyed. And slowly, something happened that I never expected. I stopped feeling ashamed. When the trial finally came, I was ready. Emily's defense team tried to spin it. They said I had a history of instability. That I was obsessive. That Emily had acted in self-defense, preemptively. It was all lies. But they were polished lies. Slick. Scripted. Until the prosecution played the footage. 8 minutes and 20 seconds of silent truth. The jury watched Emily run. Watched her check her coat. Watched the exact moment the explosion rocked the lower lobby, just as she crossed the street. Silence in the courtroom. Then murmurs. Then shifting. Because they knew. We all did. After that, everything moved quickly. Emily was convicted. 5 counts, including attempted murder and destruction of property. She didn't look at me once during sentencing. I waited for it. Waited for some kind of apology. But she just stared ahead. As if I was never real to her at all. Afterward, reporters tried to reach me. Podcasts. True crime YouTubers. Book publishers. I said no to all of them. Because this story wasn't for them. It was for the people who feel invisible. Discarded. Ruined. It was for the ones who almost didn't make it. The ones like me. After the trial, I disappeared. Not literally, but in every way that mattered. I deleted my socials. Changed my number. Moved out of the city. Too many memories. Too many ghosts. I found a small place in a quiet town 2 hours away. A basement apartment with creaky floors and paper-thin walls. But it was mine. And more importantly, no one knew me there. For the first few weeks, I barely spoke to anyone. I only left to buy groceries or walk aimlessly at night. The silence helped. It gave me space to think. Not just about Emily, but about myself. About who I had become, and who I still wanted to be. One night, I found myself staring at my reflection in the bathroom mirror. I looked older, not in the obvious ways. Not more wrinkles or gray hair, but something deeper. Like my face had finally learned how to carry pain. And that's when it hit me. If I didn't do something, I was going to disappear for real. Fade into the background. Let what happened define me. Let Emily win, even from prison. No, not anymore. The next morning, I made coffee, sat at the tiny kitchen table, and wrote a list. Not a revenge list. Not this time. Just a what's next list. Start therapy. Find remote work. Reconnect with Cassie. Reach out to Marcus, if he was still around. Tell the full story properly. It was a start. A rough one. But it was mine. Therapy wasn't easy. The first 3 sessions, I said almost nothing. Just stared out the window while the therapist, a kind, tired-looking woman named Dr. Elin, waited patiently. Then one day, she asked, "What do you think justice actually looks like?" I didn't answer right away, because I wasn't sure I knew anymore. After everything, the lies, the trial, the conviction, I still didn't feel free. The past clung to me like smoke after a fire. "It looks like peace," I said finally. She nodded. "Then stop waiting for it to come from someone else." That hit me hard. Because she was right. I had been waiting. For the internet to apologize. For the news to retract their headlines. For Emily to write me some handwritten letter admitting what she'd done. None of that was coming. But peace? That was something I could build. I started writing again. Not the blog. Something more permanent. A manuscript. A full memoir. I didn't sugarcoat it. I didn't dramatize it either. I just told the truth. The fear. The confusion. The rage. The loneliness. How, and the slow, painful climb back to myself. Cassie was the first person I sent it to. She called me the next day, voice thick with emotion. "You need to publish this." I laughed. "Who's gonna read it?" "Everyone," she said. She was right. We found a small publisher. Niche. But passionate. The book didn't hit bestseller lists, or get turned into a Netflix special. But it found its people. I got emails from men and women who'd been through similar betrayals. Who'd been accused. Abandoned. Silenced. They said my story made them feel less alone. That it gave them hope. And that was enough. That was peace. Not all at once. Not in a grand Hollywood ending kind of way. But piece by piece. In small, quiet victories. Like sleeping through the night. Or laughing at a dumb movie. Or walking into a room without wondering who believed what. The scars didn't vanish. But they stopped bleeding. And that was everything. I didn't expect to hear from Marcus again. It had been over a year since I walked out of that prison. Over a year since he'd clapped me on the back and said, "Don't look back, brother, you made it." But one evening, as I was scrolling through my inbox, buried between newsletters and junk mail, there it was. Subject, "You still standing?" I opened it instantly. "Cole, I saw the clip, that podcast you did. You speak real now, man. Guess I just wanted to say, proud of you. You ever find yourself near Springtown, drop by Crossroads Shelter. I'm helping out here. We got some kids who need stories like yours." I stared at it for a long time. Not because it was long or poetic, but because it was something solid. A bridge to the past, but one I wasn't afraid to walk on. I went a week later. The shelter was tucked behind an old church, brick walls stained with time. Inside, folding chairs, scuffed linoleum, and kids who looked at me like I might vanish if they blinked. I told my story. Not the viral one. Not the polished, edited, interview version. The real one. The boy who thought life was fair. The man who found out it wasn't. And the human who chose to keep standing anyway. One kid raised his hand. Couldn't have been more than 15. "What do you do when people don't believe you?" he asked. I looked him in the eye and said, "You stop trying to make them." He frowned. "But that's not fair." "No," I nodded. "It's not. But peace isn't about fairness. It's about not letting them decide your worth." I stayed after the talk. Helped clean up chairs. Talked to a few kids one-on-one. Marcus pulled me aside before I left. "You know," he said, "you could do more of this. Speaking, teaching, shit, even writing more. I'm not really an expert." He smirked. "You survived, didn't you?" I drove home with the window down. Night air pouring in. Heart a little lighter. Not because I had fixed everything, but because I had finally stopped trying to. A month later, I got a call from a small university. They'd read my book. Wanted me to come speak. I almost said no. Old instincts. Old fear. But I said yes. And it became a pattern. Talks. Panels. Workshops. Not fame. Not fortune. But purpose. I started getting emails from people I'd never met. Not just survivors. Not just ex-cons. Teachers. Mothers. Lawyers. Even a retired judge. One message stood out. "I used to think people like you were just broken. But maybe the system's what's broken. Thank you for opening my eyes." It wasn't revenge. But it was justice. In a quieter way. And somehow, that felt bigger. One morning, a letter arrived. Handwritten, no return address. Inside, a single page. "I know you'll never forgive me. I don't expect you to. But I am sorry. Not just for what I did, but for the years you lost. I hope you found peace. E." No name. But I didn't need one. I folded it up, slid it into a drawer, and went for a walk. The sky was overcast. The world felt heavy. But my chest? Lighter than it had been in years. Because forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting. It means letting go of the weight someone else dropped on you. The letter shook something loose in me. Not rage, not closure, just a release. I didn't talk about it, didn't post it online. Some things weren't meant for the public. They were meant to be carried quietly, and then set down. Terry Ghoul, I kept teaching. Not in classrooms, but in shelters, rehab centers, halfway homes. Places people forgot about. The ones who sat in the back, arms crossed, waiting for the speaker to screw up. Those were my people. I didn't try to fix them. I just told the truth, mine. No sugarcoating, no fake hope. And sometimes, that was enough. I met a woman named Leah during one of those talks. She wasn't like the others. Didn't flinch at the word prison. Didn't glance around when I said false accusation. She looked me in the eye and said, "They tried to do the same thing to my brother, he didn't make it." I sat with that a while. "I'm sorry," I finally said. She nodded. "So am I, but I'm glad you did." We didn't exchange numbers. But 2 weeks later, she showed up at another talk. Front row. And the next time, she brought coffee. No sugar, just like I liked it. She didn't ask for details I wasn't ready to share. She didn't flinch when I did. We were two people shaped by fire. Not trying to fix each other. Just trying to walk through the smoke together. One night, after a long day of volunteering, I found myself standing outside her car. We weren't dating, not officially, but it felt like we were orbiting the idea. "Do you ever think about what you'd do if none of that ever happened?" she asked, eyes on the horizon. I laughed. "Every damn day." She tilted her head. "And?" "I'd probably still be teaching math to bored teenagers and thinking that was the hardest part of life." She smiled. "You'd have been good at it." "Maybe, but I wouldn't trade this." That surprised her. "You wouldn't trade prison, betrayal, being branded a monster?" "No," I said, "because it made me someone I can finally live with." That night we sat in silence, under a flickering streetlight. Two people, not trying to escape the past, just learning to live after it. My speaking work picked up. A few colleges. Then a conference. Eventually a publisher called. They wanted a book. I said I'd already written one. They said they wanted this version, the broken one, the healed one. I spent 6 months writing it. Not a memoir, not a manifesto, just the truth. For every person who'd been branded something they weren't. For everyone who had to rebuild from nothing. I called it, Still Standing, a story they tried to bury. It didn't hit bestseller lists, but I got letters. Hundreds. A woman who left an abusive husband because of something I'd said in chapter 3. A man who opened up to his son for the first time. A teacher who gave a second chance to a kid she would have kicked out a year ago. That's when I realized revenge didn't always look like fire and destruction. Sometimes it looked like hope, like building something so unbreakable that no lie could touch it. But that didn't mean the past stayed quiet. One day I walked out of a bookstore event and found a man leaning against my car. He wore a suit that didn't quite fit and a face I hadn't seen in years. Detective Halverson. The one who arrested me. The one who looked me in the eye and told me, "You're going away for a long time, Mr. Cole." I stopped cold. He nodded. "You turned out okay." I didn't answer. "I read your book," he said. I folded my arms. "Looking for your name?" He chuckled, low and bitter. "Wasn't there. Smart." "You want an apology?" I asked. "No," he said. "I came to give one." That stunned me. "I didn't believe you," he continued. "Didn't want to. We had pressure from the DA, media breathing down our necks. You were the easy answer." "You mean I fit the profile?" He nodded. "Yeah." Silence stretched. "I can't undo what happened," he said finally. "But I thought you should know I left the force." "Because of me?" "Because of me," he corrected. I started looking back at other cases. Things didn't sit right. I couldn't keep doing it. I didn't forgive him. Not then. But I didn't hate him either. We shook hands. And that night, I slept better than I had in months. I didn't tell Leah about the detective right away. Not because I was hiding it, but because I was still processing it. For so long, I'd thought of people like him as statues in my life. Unmoving, unchanging. But maybe people could change. Even if they were years too late. That night, I sat with Leah on her porch. The air was cool, the sky bruised with stars. "I saw someone from my past today," I said. She looked at me over her mug. "Yeah?" I told her everything. The arrest, the apology, the handshake. When I finished, she didn't say anything for a long time. Just nodded slowly. Then she said, "You ever gonna forgive him?" I didn't answer right away. "Forgiveness isn't a gift you give someone else," she said. "It's a key you give yourself. Even if they don't deserve it? Especially then." I didn't say anything else that night. But something cracked open. Not a clean break, just a hairline fracture in the anger I thought I'd buried. A month later, the book started gaining attention in unexpected places. A podcast in Canada covered it. Then a viral TikTok by a college student calling it the most real thing I've ever read. Sales jumped, speaking invites poured in. Suddenly, I was on Zoom calls with classrooms in Australia, rehab centers in Germany. It felt surreal. I had to remind myself, I didn't write the book to be seen. I wrote it to be heard. There's a difference. But with visibility came risk. One afternoon I got a message. Blocked number, no name, just a photo. My old classroom door, the one from the school that fired me. My name still faintly visible under peeled off letters. Then a message. Some people don't forget. I stared at the screen for a long time. It didn't scare me. It pissed me off. Because after everything, the truth, the rebuilding, the forgiveness, someone still needed me to be a villain in their story. And I was done playing that role. I didn't reply to the message. Didn't even save the number. I just stared at that blurry photo of the classroom door and let myself feel it. Not fear, not sadness. Grief. Grief for the version of me who still flinched when the past tapped on his shoulder. Grief for the years I'd lost, defending myself in silence. But then I closed the phone. And I opened my calendar. Because I had a school visit the next morning, a real one. A group of at-risk kids, most of whom had already been told they wouldn't make it. and they were waiting to hear a story. Not about revenge, but about rebuilding. The school was nothing like the polished halls I'd once worked in. This place had cracked tiles and flickering lights. But the kids? Their eyes held something I hadn't seen in a long time. Possibility. Not optimism. That's too fragile. But possibility? That's what keeps people alive. I told them my story, not polished, not rehearsed. I told them about the day I woke up in a hospital bed with the world convinced I was a monster. I told them about the silence in jail, the smell of bleach and fear. I told them about Marcus, about Leah, about the little library that saved my mind. And then I said this: they took a year of my life, but they didn't get to take me. After, a kid named Tyrone came up to me. He couldn't have been more than 16. Sharp eyes, busted shoes. He didn't say anything at first. Then, they said you went to prison. I nodded, yeah. He paused. Did it change you? I looked him in the eye. It showed me who I already was. He didn't smile, but he nodded, like he understood. Then he turned and walked away. That night, I sat on Leah's porch again. She handed me a mug of tea without saying a word. And I thought about how far I'd come. Not in miles, but in mindset. I used to think healing meant forgetting. Now, I knew it meant remembering differently. When I lay down that night, I didn't dream of courtrooms or concrete floors. I dreamed of building something. Not a story, not a brand, a life. A few weeks passed before I heard anything else from Melanie or her lawyer. I figured they'd backed off. Or maybe they'd finally read the room. The public wasn't on their side anymore. Then, one afternoon, a package arrived. No return address. Inside? A single manila folder. No note. No explanation. Just documents. Printed emails, screenshots, internal memos. All from the school. All dated weeks before the incident that had landed me in jail. My hands shook as I flipped through them. One stood out. From m.thorne@greystone.ac to Principal Daniel Westbrook. Subject, R.E. Nathan Cole. He's too outspoken. The parents are already uncomfortable with his lesson plans. If he keeps pushing, we'll have to consider removing him. Quietly. It was dated 3 weeks before that parent claimed I'd assaulted her son. 3 weeks before my whole life unraveled. And it proved something I'd always suspected. They'd wanted me gone long before the accusation. I scanned everything. Backed it up. Emailed copies to Leah, Cassie, and even my lawyer, just in case. Then I leaned back in my chair and exhaled. This wasn't closure. But it was clarity. The kind of clarity that doesn't shout, it just settles. A day later, I got a call. Blocked a number. I almost didn't pick up. But something in me, maybe curiosity, maybe masochism did. A woman's voice. Worn out, faint. Nathan? I didn't speak. I know you probably hate me, she continued. I need to say something. Melanie. Her voice cracked. I thought I was protecting my son. I really did. I thought I didn't realize what they were doing. I stayed silent. She waited. I'm sorry, she whispered. That was it. No explanations. No justifications. Just those 2 words. And for once, they didn't feel like a weapon. They felt like something closer to surrender. I didn't forgive her. But I didn't need to destroy her either. Not anymore. That wasn't the story I wanted to live inside. That wasn't the man I wanted to be. I wrote another article that week. This one wasn't about Melanie. Or the school. Or the system. It was about Tyrone. About Marcus. About people who'd looked at me, not as a case file or headline, but as a human. It went viral within 2 days. I didn't watch the numbers. But Cassie texted me, all caps. You're trending, bro. I smiled, but only for a second. Then I got back to work. Rebuilding isn't glamorous. It's late nights and early mornings. It's unlearning shame. It's making coffee for yourself and not letting your hands shake when you drink it. But every day I built a little more. Not revenge, not justice. Just myself. One piece at a time. The blog was taking off faster than I expected. At first it was a handful of readers, mostly people from Cassie's network, maybe some old students who still remembered me. Then came the messages. Some short, a simple thank you. Others long, bleeding pain through paragraphs. Teachers, nurses, former inmates, single moms, foster kids. They weren't responding to me. They were responding to truth. Raw, imperfect, undeniable. One email stuck with me. It was from a man in Arizona. He'd been a corrections officer. Said he used to mock inmates behind their backs, until his own son got locked up for something he didn't do. I never realized, he wrote, how fast a life can collapse. I'm ashamed of who I was. Thank you for helping me see it. I read that email 3 times. Then I closed my laptop and cried. The world felt less like a battlefield after that, more like a hospital ward. Everyone was bleeding, some just better at hiding it. And for the first time since my arrest, I didn't feel alone. I used to think healing came in some cinematic moment. A courtroom win, an apology, a check in the mail. But healing snuck in quietly. It came with folded laundry, with Marcus texting me stupid memes, with a kid at the shelter, asking if I'd read them another story. It was Cassie showing up with a bag of groceries, and not making a big deal out of it. It was Leah calling to say she'd started therapy again. Your fault, you bastard, she said, laughing. Sometimes, justice isn't a gavel. It's survival. A few months later, I got a call from a producer. They wanted to interview me for a documentary on wrongful imprisonment. Nothing flashy, she promised. Just your story. I hesitated. Every instinct screamed, don't go back there. But another part of me, the part that didn't want anyone else to feel as alone as I once did, said yes. We filmed in a small studio, just 2 cameras and a soft-spoken director. I told everything. Not as a victim, as a witness. After it aired, things snowballed. An independent publisher reached out. A podcast host offered a monthly slot. A nonprofit asked if I'd speak at their fundraiser. I wasn't trying to become anything, but I was becoming someone anyway. The day I stood on that stage, mic in hand, a room full of people waiting, I thought of the prison yard, of my busted knuckles, of Bryce sneering from behind his sunglasses. I remembered the silence I used to live in. Now I had a voice, and I wasn't wasting it. This isn't just my story, I told them. This is what happens when we judge before we listen, when we throw people away before asking why they broke. I paused. No paper in my hands. No script. Everyone thinks justice is about punishment, but sometimes, the only justice we ever get is rebuilding what they tried to destroy. Applause erupted. But I didn't soak it in. I just breathed. I walked backstage, adrenaline fading. Cassie met me with a smirk. Look at you, she said. America's favorite ex-con. I laughed. Bite me. We went for burgers after. Sat on the hood of her car under a dead street lamp. No fancy talk. Just fries, laughter, and a kind of silence that feels safe. I still have nightmares. Still flinch when I hear a certain tone in someone's voice. But they don't own me anymore. Bryce. The system. Even Melanie. They wrote my first fall. But I'm the one writing the sequel. Months passed. Quietly. Almost too quietly. I kept writing. Kept speaking. My face showed up in places I never imagined. Articles, conference flyers, even a classroom poster once. But I never let it go to my head. I wasn't a hero. I was just surviving out loud. One day I was leaving a cafe when I spotted someone leaning on the hood of my car. Leather jacket, tattoos, that same cocky stance. Bryce. I stopped mid-step. He hadn't changed much. Same smirk. Same sense of ownership over every space he entered. But I had changed. He gave a lazy nod. Heard you're famous now. Get off my car. He stayed put. Relax. Just wanted to talk. I didn't move. We're not friends. No, we're not. But you've got people listening to you now, and I'm thinking, maybe it's time I tell my side. I stared at him. You're trying to ride the wave now? He shrugged. Why not? You think you're the only one with a sob story? Something in me boiled. I stepped closer, not afraid, not anymore. You brutalized people in there. You tore down anyone who looked like they might stand back up. And now you want sympathy. He flinched, barely. Come near me again, I said, and I'll do a lot more than talk. He opened his mouth, then closed it, then walked away. I watched him disappear down the sidewalk, shrinking with every step. Not because he was getting farther, but because I was finally bigger than him. It was the last time I saw him. I don't know where he went. Don't care. Some ghosts don't need exercising, just forgetting. But one ghost wouldn't let go. Melanie. I never saw her after the trial. Never tried. But one evening, as I left a community panel event, a woman, with short hair and nervous hands, waited near the exit. She stepped forward, voice shaking. Nathan? I froze. It was her. She looked smaller, thinner, like she'd been living in the shadows too. I'm sorry, she said. My chest tightened. She kept going. I was scared. Of what would happen if I told the truth. Of what they'd think of me. I didn't know Bryce would take it that far. You did not know, I interrupted. Silence. A few people passed by, eyes darting between us. I didn't care. You let them destroy my life. Tears welled in her eyes. I know. Because it was easier. She nodded. No defense, just defeat. And somehow, that made it worse. I wanted to hate her, wanted to scream, to unload every sleepless night. But she already looked like someone who did that to herself every day. I took a breath. Don't show up at events for forgiveness, I said. I'm not. Good, because I'm not offering it. I walked away. And for the first time in years, I didn't feel like I was the one bleeding. Life didn't suddenly turn into a movie montage after that. There were bills, rejections, silent nights. But there was also peace. Quiet, persistent peace. Sometimes I sit at the park near the old school. Watch kids play, wonder who they'll become, who they'll have to survive to get there. And I pray, not in a religious way, that the system will be kinder to them. Or at least, that someone will believe them when it matters most. They say revenge is best served cold. But I don't think I ever wanted revenge. Not really. What I wanted, what I needed, was a life that couldn't be taken away again. A truth no lie could cover. A voice no one could silence. And I have that now. That's enough. That's everything. The invitations came slowly at first. A local podcast. Then a university lecture. Then a feature in a documentary about wrongful convictions. Each one scared the hell out of me. Not because I didn't know what to say, I'd lived it. But because I knew the cost of telling the truth. Every time I spoke, it felt like opening an old wound, like bleeding in public. But every time someone came up to me afterward and said, "That happened to me too," it stitched something closed. I met survivors of other systems. Foster care, immigration detention, domestic abuse. Different cages, same silence. And I realized I wasn't alone. I was part of a whole underground of people who'd lived through being erased. And we were all learning to speak again. One night, after a panel in Chicago, a teenage boy waited by the exit. Couldn't have been older than 16. Hands in his sleeves. Hoodie zipped to the neck. He didn't speak at first, just stood there, eyes locked on mine. Then, finally, "They don't believe me either." That's all he said. And it hit harder than any punch I'd ever taken in prison. We sat on the curb outside while the janitor locked up the auditorium. He told me about a teacher. About threats. About no one listening. I didn't have easy answers. Just one sentence I knew he needed to hear. "I believe you." He didn't cry, just nodded. And walked off into the night, a little straighter than before. That was the moment I knew the story wasn't mine anymore. It was bigger. It was for every kid who'd been gaslit by adults. Every inmate who wasn't supposed to come back out with their soul intact. Every man who'd been told he was only dangerous or disposable, never redeemable. I started a non-profit. Small, Grassroots. We called it Second Echo. Because sometimes justice needs a second round to be heard. We offered legal referrals, story coaching, safe housing leads. Even just a number to text when you felt like your past was going to eat you alive. One day I got a letter. No return address. Typed. Just a single line. I was wrong. Inside was a folded printout, an anonymous tip submission to the hospital board. Attached was a grainy but real image from the hallway camera I never knew existed. It showed Bryce exiting the stairwell, seconds before the crash. That footage had never been admitted to my case. Suppressed? Missed? Who knows? But it didn't matter anymore. Because I had already rebuilt what they broke. And now, even the truth was starting to catch up. Sometimes I wonder what would have happened if that footage had come out earlier. Would I have skipped the cell, the cold meals, the bruises? Maybe. But then again, I wouldn't have met Marcus. Wouldn't have sat on a shelter floor with strangers and cried. Wouldn't have learned how to weld steel and wire hope into something solid. Pain isn't something I'd wish on anyone. But power? Power born of survival? That's priceless. And no one can take it back. Now when I look in the mirror, I don't see a mugshot. I see a man who walked through hell and mapped the way back. Not just for himself, but for everyone who thought the darkness meant the end. I got a call from the hospital. The one where everything had started. They were hosting a community panel on medical ethics and wanted me to speak. At first I thought it was a prank, but the coordinator said my name had come up multiple times. Apparently some of the new staff had watched my interview, the one that went viral after I spoke on that documentary. They didn't want to pretend the past hadn't happened. They wanted to talk about it. Out loud. In the building where it all went down. Walking back through those double doors. God. It felt like time folded in on itself. The floor still smelled faintly of antiseptic. The tiles still had that fake shine. And for a second, I saw myself, the version they wheeled in on the stretcher. The version with bruised ribs and no voice. But I wasn't him anymore. Now people looked me in the eye. Now people listened when I spoke. I stood on that panel next to doctors, lawyers, even a new hospital director, who said publicly, and I quote, "We failed Nathan Cole. And the system that allowed that to happen is being overhauled." I didn't smile, I didn't clap, but I nodded. Because that was enough. Not forgiveness, not closure, but acknowledgement. And that, I'd learned, is sometimes more healing than justice. After the panel, a woman approached me. Mid-50s. Gray streaks in her ponytail, nervous eyes. "I worked the ER that night," she said. My throat tightened. "I remember you." "You probably don't," she replied. I didn't say anything, but I knew something was off. I just didn't know how to speak up. She paused, swallowed. "I'm sorry." I didn't answer right away. But then I said, "You're speaking now." And that's what matters. Cassie showed up for that panel too. Front row, arms crossed, eyes glassy. She waited until the crowd cleared out, then walked up and hugged me. Not a weak, awkward hug. The kind that says, "I saw it all, I felt it all, and I'm proud of you anyway." We went out for burgers afterward. She was still sarcastic, still cursed like a sailor, still thought podcasts were just people talking with better microphones. But when I asked how she was, she said one thing I'll never forget. "Still healing, but you showed me it's possible." One night, sitting at home, I opened a blank document, typed one sentence. This is the part of the story no one tells. And just kept going. Page after page after page. Not for a book, not for a movie, just for me. To remind myself that I lived through something no one should have to. And came out not just alive, but awake. I don't flinch at loud noises anymore. I don't check over my shoulder when I walk into a store. Okay, maybe sometimes I still hesitate when someone asks, "Where have you been the last few years?" But now, I have an answer. A real one. One that doesn't shrink or hide or make excuses. I was surviving, then I was rebuilding, now I'm thriving. Marcus writes me letters from time to time. Still in prison, still hopeful. He signs them, your brother, in bricks. I keep them in a shoebox labeled real ones. Right next to the photo Cassie took of us at the second Echo launch. She made me frame it. She said, your face is the last one some of these guys will see before they start again. Might as well look trustworthy. Sometimes, when it's quiet, I think about the moment I woke up in that hospital bed. Everything fuzzy, everyone accusing. And I wonder how different life might have been if just one person had believed me then. But then again, maybe this story was never about clearing my name. Maybe it was about finding it. Now, when I hear someone whisper, you'll never make it, I just smile. Because I already did. Not all at once. But piece by piece. One truth at a time. One screw, one story, one second chance. Because I am Nathan Cole. And I didn't just survive. I transformed. And no one, not Bryce, not the board, not the system, can take that away from me. Ever again. The days after the panel were quiet. Too quiet. Not the kind of quiet you fear. The kind you earn. The kind that feels like a breath you didn't know you were holding, finally released. For the first time in years, no one was watching me out of the corner of their eye. No whispers. No subtle questions wrapped in polite concern. Just peace. But peace is strange. When you've lived in survival mode long enough, silence can feel like something's wrong. Like a trap. I kept waiting for another twist. Another letter. Another accusation. But it didn't come. Because the truth was already out there. And the people who needed to hear it already had. I started volunteering at a local shelter. Quietly. No cameras, no press. I helped men fill out job applications. Taught them how to answer questions about gaps in employment. How to tell their story without shame. It felt full circle. I wasn't just giving back. I was offering the thing I never had. A witness. Someone to say, I believe you, and you're not alone. Cassie said something brilliant once. She said you don't have to be whole to help someone else heal. And damn, she was right. I still had bad nights. Still double-checked logs. Still heard the echo of beeping monitors when I closed my eyes. But I could hold someone else's hand through it. And in doing that, I held my own too. The media tried to reframe the story. Called me the symbol of resilience. A modern-day whistleblower. Some even said I should run for office. I laughed. Hard. I wasn't a hero. I was just a guy who didn't lie down. I told my story not to be admired, but to be heard. Bryce? He vanished from the spotlight. Word was he moved to another city. Tried starting fresh, changed his name. He can do that if he wants. But me? I get to keep my name. Because I cleaned it with blood, grit, and truth. One afternoon I found myself back in that diner where Cassie and I used to meet. Same chipped booths, same coffee that tasted like regret. But something had changed. Me. I sat there with a journal, not a legal pad. Wrote ideas, not evidence. Stories I wanted to tell. Characters that felt real. Scenes that held pain and purpose. I was creating again. Not surviving. Creating. I think the most powerful moment in my journey wasn't clearing my name. It was realizing I didn't need anyone's permission to move forward. Forgiveness never came from Bryce. Or from the hospital. Or even from the people who doubted me. It came from me. When I looked in the mirror and finally said, you were enough. Even then. Now I teach part-time at a community college. Intro to Criminal Justice. First day, I tell my students, this isn't a lecture, it's a conversation. They don't know the full story. But they respect me. Because I speak like a man who's been through it. Because I have. And the last thing I'll say? If you're reading this, watching this, listening to this, and you've been broken, you're not done. You're rebuilding. Even if all you've got are scattered pieces. That's still something. And if anyone tries to tell you that you'll never come back from it, just say what I did. Watch me. I started going on long walks again. No destination, no playlist, just my thoughts, and the sound of my own steps. The same streets that once felt like a minefield, now felt familiar. Reclaimed. There were days I passed the hospital, not intentionally, but I never crossed the street anymore. I didn't flinch at the sight of the building, didn't stare up at the windows and wonder which one had betrayed me. I just walked past, because it didn't own me anymore. I ran into Sarah once, the nurse who had testified against me. She looked older, tired. Eyes carried something she hadn't had before. Regret. We locked eyes for a second. She opened her mouth, probably to apologize. But I just gave a small nod. Nothing more. Because I didn't need her apology. I didn't even need her guilt. I'd already left that chapter behind. People ask me sometimes if I'm angry, if I still think about what was taken from me. My answer? Only when I need fuel. Not to burn down the past, but to keep moving forward. Because anger, when it's not destructive, can be power. The kind that clears a path. But it can't be the only engine. Eventually, you need peace, direction, purpose. That came for me when a student asked the question I'd always dreaded. Professor Cole, is it true what they said about you back then? There it was. The ripple of truth in a still pond. My hands didn't shake. My voice didn't falter. I looked him in the eye and said, "Some stories are louder than the truth until someone's brave enough to tell it louder." Then I moved on with the lecture. And I watched as 10 heads looked up, wide-eyed. Maybe that's what healing is. Not erasing the past, but using it as a foundation. Cassie came to visit one fall afternoon. She had a new job, new boyfriend, same fire in her eyes. We sat on a park bench, surrounded by orange leaves. She smiled and said, "You know, I always knew you'd make it through." I shook my head. I didn't. Not always. She grinned. "That's why you did." We didn't talk about Bryce, or the trial, or the time lost. We talked about the future, about stories worth telling, about how truth, even when buried, finds its way back to the surface, like a seed through concrete. Later that year, I published a book, not about the case, about recovery, resilience, reputation. Titled it, Unbroken Silence. It didn't make any bestseller list, but it made it into the hands of a kid in Milwaukee who emailed me one night at 2 a.m. "Your story saved my life." That was the only review I needed. I still get nightmares sometimes. Still feel my heartbeat spike when I hear metal doors. Still wonder if people are whispering when they lower their voices in a room. But that's okay, because I'm not trying to forget what happened. I'm trying to honor the version of me that survived it. The one who didn't let them win. And every time I get asked what I'd say to the ones who broke me, to Bryce, to the board, to the people who saw smoke and screamed fire without checking the facts, I say this: I forgive you, but I remember. There's a difference between moving on and pretending it didn't happen. I'm not erasing the scars. I'm just building muscle over them. These days, I sign off my lectures with a phrase my therapist once told me. Survival is messy, but it's still survival. It always lands harder than the textbooks. Because pain makes people listen, and healing makes them believe. Last month, they named the new community library after me. Not because I'm famous, not because I'm flawless, but because I didn't disappear. And in a world that loves to cancel, destroy, and discard, sometimes the loudest act of rebellion is staying. So here I am, still here, still building, still human. Nathan Cole, a name they tried to erase, now printed on books, on syllabi, on glass doors, and most importantly, carried with pride in my own damn chest. And if you take away anything from this story, let it be this: you don't have to be perfect to come back. You just have to refuse to stay buried. Because even when the whole world turns against you, the truth doesn't die. It waits. And when it finally rises, so will you.
If that hit you deep, imagine what's coming next.
Subscribe, like, and welcome to Taste of Revenge.